How are you? Hi. We are going to wait for Erica to pop in. Hi, guys. Hola. Hi. Hello, hello. Is anybody else having a sleepy day? I'm so sleepy today. Yeah.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to situate myself a little bit better. Oh, oh my gosh, there we go. Hey.
Yeah, if you call in, you're on the bottom.
Yeah, okay.
Cut off your vice versa. For when you are the host.
Back a little bit.
Let me see the
I have a
character.
co-host today too.
Let me see her.
She wants to co-host with me. Yeah. There we go.
She's the best.
Yes. Um, so I must say thank you so much for this opportunity, Lauren. And I hadn't had the best morning, so I feel like this is a chance to revive my mood and not put me in a bad mood for the weekend. So again, I appreciate this. Here we go. She might be a little bit.
Howard.
I really enjoyed your discussions with Gary yesterday. And I want to give a shout out to Gary for being the reason I initially went to see you in San Francisco before moving here. So he gets mad props.
We love you, Gary.
And what was awesome is that was even just a virtual outreach. He had never met me before, but he had contacted me from bands that he saw that I liked and made a suggestion. Is like, I think you're gonna really love this woman. You're gonna be incredibly wowed. And yeah, he was absolutely right. So, and also I think I mentioned too, I said, oh, is she scary to meet with afterwards? He was like, no, absolutely not. So that's why I also felt like it would be okay for me to go up afterwards and introduce myself. So yeah, it feels like, yeah, I was saying it feels like forever ago. I mean, it was really would have been about 2 years ago because it was May, but a little bit under 2 years ago. But I feel like it seems much. Yeah, it seems like it's been much longer. Yeah. So
which was such a great night. And then it was so interesting that you actually had a connection with my sister. Such a small world.
that is bonkers. So
Yeah,
I remember.
and
Yeah.
people that my sister went to high school with.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
wait, was it high school? Was it? I think it was University of Maryland, or did she not go?
That would make sense. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, because his name is Tony Awajadu, and he's one of my favorite human
she's
beings.
texting me right now, which is so synchronicity.
Well, it's also Siblings Day, so I feel like shout out to.
And it's I always say that I'm spelling doesn't come to me naturally. I'm a bit of a slow reader, but numbers are like my religion. And I think that the coincidence of sibling day landing on my only sibling's birthday is such a waste of a coincidence because I know dates so well. But hey, it was given. Today's my sister's 33rd birthday.
Wow, very
We were supposed to be
nice.
playing, we were supposed to be playing DC tonight on tour, which would have technically been like mine and Eddie's home show. Because
Was that strategic? Like, did you knowing
no,
that your sister's birthday?
unfortunately, no artist has that
Okay, ability.
that power. Well, I mean, you have to think about, all the schedules, all the venue schedules. That would be really hard to also take requests.
Yeah.
It's usually just, routing and when the venues are available for the venue that, I'm like my capacity. But yeah, I think someone just said, happy birthday, sis. Yes, her name is Sarah. Yeah, we talked earlier. It's 3 hours ahead of her time, so she was enjoying her wine cooler. She's kind of like a fruity drinker. We're like the opposite with that, but she's really enjoying her 33rd birthday. Yeah,
She's an adorable. It's a son, right?
she has an adorable daughter
A
and
daughter.
yeah,
Okay.
I have I have a niece and a nephew here. I've got them on my background. I think I can show them off. Ari, you can.
Ah, oh my gosh. I remember one of them was singing, what was it? Was it for Valentine's Day or something that you posted? But oh no, it was for Orson's birthday. And then they kept saying LP. It was really funny.
Vice versa.
Oh, vice versa. Oh, okay. Orson and not LP. That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
Got
that video is a couple years old, and I totally understand. When you're a parent, you have to be. We're just in an age where everything's online, and I've had friends that have had kids, and everyone's doing it, differently, and with yeah, that's cool. You can put her face on Instagram, or like, you have a lot of followers. I kind of don't really want her on Instagram, or some parents want to wait until the kid is old enough to make the decision if they wanted their their
Yeah.
entire upbringing on social media, which I support all approaches. But for a bit, we were holding off on putting baby Mila, and then I think it's like as soon as the second kid comes. But that video is of Mila. That's like the first time I've been able to put her on my Instagram. But she's 5 now, and in that video, she's like 2. 'Cause
Oh my God.
she was just like my sister and me, very talkative, kind of immediately.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, she was trying to get her to sing "Happy Birthday" to LP,
LP,
which is
that's great.
11 days before Orson's, and she's just like Orson, and she's like, "How about LP?" And she goes Orson, and she just keeps saying it.
Yeah.
It's a couple posts back. It's like
That
10.
was, yeah, that was
Biggest
so
thing in the
great.
world.
Yeah, that was amazing. Very nice. Well, I love that we both share that sister bond. Yeah. Mine was actually supposed to come out at the end of June, but now has postponed because I guess we still don't know with quarantine. But I'd love for you to meet her, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I know I have a prediction that this emancipation from quarantine is going to fall around July 4th, which I think would kind of be strangely ironic, but I don't know. That's just my prediction.
Yeah. I like your predictions. On that tip, I want to explain to everybody, we've got a good crew going. So Erica is a Jane of all trades, a Jane of many trades. I got to get to know her the most because of coming to my shows and other people in the Los Angeles music community's shows. She's also a scientist, and she also has many character traits that I admire. You're very disciplined with your workout regimen. You're extremely organized. She's speaking from her Instagram handle, Beats That Set My Pulse. Did I get that right?
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
yeah, Beats That
Thank
Set
you.
My Pulse. And that is a blog that you have an online domain. You maybe
Yes.
shared you shared on Facebook.
Yes.
She writes she writes these in-depth, sometimes lengthy, but not one sentence is a throwaway. I mean, she'll give you
Ah,
a walk through a play-by-play of her experience. Barely, I look, and I was shining light on this when I was talking to Gary, but you guys are music critics, but because you're music lovers or whatever, however you end up choosing to do it this way, or maybe it's not contrived, it's just natural, but you never say something bad about something. You always
yeah.
mention the positive in all, you always mention the positive
Yeah.
in artists, and I agree that there definitely is something to take away positively from every artist and every live show.
Yeah.
How do you balance?
So it's funny because when I rewatched the video yesterday with Gary, because we've had these discussions, and I've made a rule to myself that I just won't write anything about the artist. I don't know, because it's like you don't want to mar your reputation. I don't want to say something's good when it's not, because then people aren't going to trust me, right? They're like, wow,
Yeah.
that was actually crap, and she said it was good. I don't trust her anymore. But so yeah, I guess my default is to just not write about the person. But like he was saying, it's hard because if they reach out to you to come to your show and they know you're there, it's it's challenging, because obviously you can't really
but you care about the person also. And
Yeah.
here and I
Yeah.
were talking about we get to know so many artists that we love, like that we love their music. And yeah, but I think it's honest, and I think it's totally okay to admit, what you're admitting. And
Yeah. And I try and like, emphasize things. I mean, I'm becoming a little bit better when understanding maybe when sound engineering is off, although that's not necessarily my forte, but I'll always try and like, if the person's not the best singer, but maybe they are the front man that also sings, like I might be like, hey, I really liked your guitar riff, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's hard because I'm not going to necessarily like tell somebody I didn't think their voice was on point or, yeah, I feel like they probably get honest opinions from other musicians as well. So, yeah, I think what I also try and do is identify ways that they stand out to me, whether it was like how the production of the show, because I think you are an excellent example of continually like pushing the limits with what is feasible.
thank you.
Mixed media, yeah, and all costume changes and things like that. And I think especially being in this playground where we sit in Los Angeles, where you have all these incredible like film experts and people that might be digital gurus, blah blah blah, actual like visual artists too, with things like paint, whatnot. It's like the sky's the limit. And with people, with the community being so collaborative, it's just whoa. Like I do feel like we have the capacity here to push the limits and maybe even set precedents, for other bands in other areas of the world. But I always try and take what I thought was really unique to the set and just like say, hey, keep doing that because I haven't seen that before.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. And then also say I've seen it. I mean, obviously everybody has to be their own unique creative being, but sometimes I think it just takes a little bit of an example to like flip the switch in somebody's brain and be like, whoa, yeah, like maybe I won't necessarily repeat that, but I'll think about how I can like push the limits in my own way,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah.
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 Well,
Like for instance, with Liquid Courage, I think it's amazing. And I thought it really brought an additional dimension to your show at Pappy's, having that sort of live paint show and stencils, like, being, what should I say, projected behind you. It just was such another interesting dimension. And I think it's like, I wish you could watch your show. And I wish I could be there with you.
I actually,
Watching the show.
Tess actually filmed too. We filmed a bit from the Pappy's show. So I'm so thankful. Two things I want to mention. Erica's mentioning a liquid light show that projects, which analog light show. I'm sure you guys know what we're talking about. But that's Liquid Courage Light Show. You follow them; they're super special. What's really special about them, and I've only worked with one of their light show, and I'm sure that people have their own spin and do their own thing. Thank you, Jess Jones, for mentioning that in the comments. Yes, by Dara. Yep, Dara and Cameron, is the stencils and things that you're mentioning. I have to give them all the credit. They catered to the artist. And when they found out that Emma and Cece were going to be on the bill, they were like, Dara reached out and asked if she could communicate with those two artists to see if they had anything that they wanted to project that they could while they're there. So they're just they're very dedicated to their part that they play, and
Yeah.
very generous with their talent. But
Yeah.
okay, so somebody also commented and said her energy is amazing.
Oh,
Correct.
who said
Erica,
that?
are
Oh,
you
that's
are
nice.
you at least you're 5 foot, 5'1"?
I'm 5 foot. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so Erica is 5 foot, 100% muscle,
Oh, geez.
100% energy. She is small package, big, beautiful presence. I just wanted to comment. I love your juxtaposition of like, I love your package with your energy. I just think it couldn't be any different. I just think you are lovely.
Thank you. I see myself through the eyes of a giant. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But
Yeah.
no, it's interesting. It's weird. I mean, I feel like I could look at it as a handicap. Well, first of all, it's not a handicap with attending shows because no one really ever cares if I sneak in front of them. And I try to be respectful and get there early, right? If I want to be up front for a headliner. But there have been times where I've like shimmied my way and magicianed myself to the front by like kind of going around the exterior and coming up front. But it's like most of the people don't care. And most of the time they're like, oh my gosh, your head is a perfect tripod. Like, hope you don't mind if I use your head a little bit to take some shots. I'm like, no. Anyway, so it's definitely not a handicap in that regard. But I actually have been used to maybe combating this seemingly handicap with sports. I played sports all my life, probably from the age of like, and then, you know, like 6 years old to, I played Division I lacrosse actually in college, which was challenging, but more so soccer, we were actually going against girls that are a foot taller than you. And then not only that, it's like you have the parents making comments like, look at that shrimp, don't let that shrimp tackle you. Like, you know, like you hear these. So it's just, it's hard to kind of, what should I say, like tune out that noise and those negative comments. But I think because I just use that too, and I think you're again a testament to using negativity to then drive you, and if you can harness that for power, I feel like it's something that again I eventually was able to almost become an expert at sort of over the years, and really enjoying when somebody said something like that, because it's like, you know what, I'm just going to prove you wrong. So for me, it very much drove impetus. So anyway, I think
I call that Scorpio funnel.
yeah, so yeah, it's almost like the best thing that somebody could tell me is that I can't do it, because it's just like it's going to be eventually, well, I told you so, right? Totally. So yeah, but I appreciate that. I feel like I always kind of, I don't mean to say that I'm opinionated. I probably always had a loud voice. I was maybe the person that parents didn't want their kids inviting to a sleepover, because my laugh is also a little bit ridiculous, especially when I get going. So it's just like, oh my God, we're never going to sleep if Erica comes to the sleepover. But but anyway, again, you have to yeah, I feel like it hasn't bothered me probably since I've learned to kind of counter argue the height thing with the presence. And it's funny because I've always had, and I have a very expressive face, at least is what people tell me, because my eyebrows like go all around and big eyes. And if I've seen a musician, like, you know, because I used to live in London, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I may not have seen a musician and it's been like 4 years. But they will be like, you know, or if I go up to them afterwards, after those 4 years, they'll be like, yeah, I was a fan. I had gone to your shows in London or whatever. And they're like, oh, I remember you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's like, even if it was 4 years ago, I guess, yeah, people see you. I think that's one thing too, you know, with fans. I've had musician friends say, like, don't think we're not seeing you. We see I had actually this one front woman tell me, she's like, we see everybody in the room. She's like, even the jackass, you know, who was whispering between songs. She's like, we see everybody. So that like put me in perspective, because I was like, the whole time I was like, they're probably not like seeing my goofy smile or whatever. So I used to discount my participation. But then after I learned that you are seeing me, it's and it makes it feel good, right? It feels like it's more of a dialogue, a show versus just a monologue. And I feel like you do that really well, because you will look in the eyes of people and you will come up directly to them. I remember at the show Pappy's, again, you came up to Gary. I think you held his head, and so you make us feel like we're part of it, which is huge. Everybody,
well, you guys are a part of it. There's no way around it for me. It's
good.
Well, the crowd is definitely part of it. Somebody asked, what kind of science do you work?
Yeah. Well, I used to be in the lab. I went to grad school and then did postdoc for several years. That's why I was in London. And I used to wear the lab coat and do all the experiments with cells and animals, blah, blah, blah. But then I ended up transitioning to be, you know, in a place where I can maybe see more of the patient outcomes, more of the immediate outcomes, and not just relying on having an imagination to say that the animal studies I was doing was actually driving impact to the patient. So, yeah, so I ended up working, or I now still work for a pharmaceutical company where the role, it's called a medical science liaison, and also neuroscience is my focus. Sorry, you asked what type of scientist, where it's kind of cool because I feel like um, honing my skills in the music field with what I do, going up to musicians and asking about their inspiration and asking about their challenges, blah, blah, blah. It's actually not too different what I do day to day for my science job, although I have more compliance rules, obviously working for a pharmaceutical company, but I'm a field medical representative. So I will meet face to face with neurologists who are treating multiple sclerosis. That's the specialty that I work in. And I will educate them on products that maybe they are using or products that are in the pipeline, so to speak. So haven't been approved yet. But they might have some good insights. I'm a relay person, so it's like I relay the requests and their insights back to my company and try and drive change. But there's a lot of room for creativity with this role, because say I had an example, like one neurologist I meet with is a digital guru, and they made an app, like a wearable or whatnot for MS. And they're like, oh, I want you to actually implement this in one of your Novartis trials. Like, is that a possibility? So I'm the kind of person that goes back with their idea and tries to push the limits, again, being compliant and whatnot. And I really love that every person I meet with will look at the data differently. They'll have different constraints within whatever hospital system they're in or whatever patients they see. So it's kind of like, if I tend to know the data really well, but having people ask or look at the data differently, it kind of makes the data come to life differently, so it doesn't seem as monotonous. And I also really love to be an advocate for innovative ideas. So I always think, like, how can I be their best or biggest ambassador to create change? And I always say too, I say to my, like, the neurologist I meet with is like, don't worry, I will make your idea known. I'm somebody that will knock on doors and rattle cages. I have no problem speaking up. And that's actually something, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of always been that way. If I feel like if I have a strong opinion about something, I don't care if it's the president of the company. I feel like if it has the ability to do good, I'm going to speak up. So that's also probably like maybe the Philly Italian in me too. But yeah, it's kind of cool. And like I said, the learnings from the music community and constantly having like the dialogue where I have to read verbal cues, like body language, it sharpens my skills for actually implementing that in my science role. So yeah. Like, for instance, if I go after to a show and I start saying like, oh man, I really enjoyed your show, like I noticed you did with this song, blah blah blah, and the person's like fluttering their eyelids, like I'm like, ooh, like that's a sign they probably don't want to talk about the show. Like, the last thing maybe they want to do is talk about music. So I feel like, again, a lot of those learnings will translate to then, yeah, the current job. So in a way, I'm like, you know what? I'm making me better as a scientist by going to more shows. But anyway, I just think music has so many healing properties regardless. So I tease when I say that, and I sort of say that lightly, but I think music, and in fact, one of the things that a medical director from our company was interested in pioneering and really advocating for is music therapy with MS, because they've shown benefit in other areas like Parkinson's, for instance. And with MS, you can tend to lose function cognitively and use motor function. So if we can try and disease modifying therapies that we have for MS, while they are good, they are still not cures. So if we can compound those, the efficacy we see with lifestyle changes, whether it's diet, exercise, or even music, it's like, why wouldn't we? And in LA, it's, we have so much access to music, and a lot of the neurologists that I've at least mentioned that to here in Los Angeles are all aboard, and they're like, how can we help? So yeah.
Such a different world than mine. I love I love listening to you about this. I don't always have much to say.
Oh,
But I love you using your science brain when you're in the show going world. You're fun.
well, sometimes though, I feel like I have to turn it off, because sometimes I just want to observe and listen. And I'm starting to think about how I would like write this in a review or whatnot, and like the analytical brain turns on, and I want to be like, Erica, stop analyzing in real time, like just take it in. So that's something that I don't know, I struggle with.
Yeah,
Huh?
pros and cons to everything, every strength.
Yeah.
Question, speaking of
Yeah.
that. So, I mentioned to the audience earlier, just a reminder, Erica writes reviews on shows. If you go to her page, you will find so many worthwhile bands, and get a really good feel based off of your ratings and your videos, and
Yeah.
other content that you've captured, photos, and you'll get a really good feel for what they're like. Um, I highly encourage going down. You're just
Thank
scrolling.
you.
But I want to know, I want you to tell us, how do you manage to, I know that as a friend, you've also been so far behind in my
Yeah.
reviews, but like it never looks like that. Like it always looks like you are right on time and you are constantly, supporting, and this, labor of love, you're constantly doing it. How do you manage your time?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate.
I'm also going to put
So,
the comments back on if you guys want to. I want to focus for a
yeah.
second about that. While Erica's
That's the
typing,
best way.
and feel free to ask
Yeah.
her other questions. I'll jot them down.
Thank you.
Uh,
So, it's interesting because I've had a lot of people ask this, and I think, again, playing sports in college, I had to be very efficient with time and sort of prioritizing. But I find that having more on my plate, it makes me more focused to really execute. So if I had a lot of meetings and it's like, oh my gosh, in order to make this show, I have to write out, send these emails out and like finish my thoughts and documentation. It's like, because I'm so addicted to music, like it's a drug. I know it sounds like, I'm like, man, I can't miss the show. Like, bah. So I have to really be disciplined. But because, and especially here in Los Angeles, it's like there's such a fear of FOMO. It's actually something I wanted to ask you later, but yeah, so I feel like it's because my drive to see the shows, because I feel like I am so addicted and I see the benefits, it really makes me sort of have to execute. The nice thing is I work from home, so I think sometimes, if you work in an office, there's going to be a lot of time that's wasted per day just being polite to your colleagues and having this sort of like water cooler conversation, and that's like fat I can trim out of my day because I don't have I work from home, so it's but also I find that well, I always say this analogy of like one energy feeds the other. So even if, I'm going, because sometimes one time I think I went to 8 shows in a row, like 8 nights in a row. And
yeah.
obviously I know with that, like I'm not going to be able to probably get the reviews up as quickly, but I'll say like, oh, I can do it on the weekend or whatever. I'll just get like something quick up and then maybe do a deeper dive of a post like later, like table that.
Mm-hmm.
But
It sounds like you have a really good handle on time management.
yeah.
Super helpful.
But
Somebody asked.
and my other point, sorry to interrupt, is like with the one energy piece, the other part, like I'm energized by it. So even if it turns out like because I decided to go to the show that night and I don't know, maybe only had like 5 hours of sleep, I can survive on that and function because I'm like still reliving the show and it's like amping me up. Like I still have the residual high.
Oh, I know that feeling when you just
Yeah.
come to the show and it just like changed, it like moved your brain around. It was so inspiring, or so
Yeah.
like really
Yeah.
hit you, and I'm just like, can't sleep. Can't
Yeah.
sleep.
Exactly. And it's like, and you're giddy. I feel like I'm like heads in the cloud. I feel like, I mean, that often happens when I see you, but like, obviously, I'm a huge Soft White 60s fan. And I remember like in anticipate, we'd seen one of their shows with Kolars at Pappy's. And then I was like amped up to see the home show at the Lodge Room. And I ran like freaking 18 miles because I was so jazzed and pumped up, like reliving the memories from Pappy's and be like, oh my God, we have a round 2 still. Like it's crazy, but that's the effect that anticipation of shows like has on my physiology. It seems nuts, but yeah. So yeah, So that's how, but yeah, there's times where it's hard and I have to just be okay with just putting stuff up quickly and be like, that's it. And then just say I'll table it and post it later. So yeah.
This is a great question. Do you feel like you need to write a review right after a show, or are you able to recall it and write about it later, especially when life happens in between shows?
Yeah, I can recall it later. What I try and do is write little notes on my
Like in
phone.
your phone? Yeah.
Yeah, and I try not to do it like during the during the show because I don't want people to think I'm texting. It's like, you know, you get dirty looks from people
He's
next
in
to
the house.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Yeah, I don't want to get dirty looks from people being like, oh my God, she's texting and she's front row. It's like, no, I'm actually typing notes because I want to remember exactly what they said. Because my part of the experience, and I think this is, I struggle with this because people say, oh, you know, like, why don't you write for a more polished journal? When I was in San Francisco, I had opportunities to maybe write for like the Bay Bridge or SF Weekly, but I know they will change my voice and change the tone and they will edit out things I said. And my whole thing is like, no, I want people to feel like they were standing next to me at the show and like laughing with me when you made some banter comment, you know, in between.
That's one of the
Yeah.
beauties of that's one of the beauties of social media is that everybody has a platform and you don't
Yeah.
have to be hired by somebody to get that platform. You just have to have an email address
Yeah.
and ambition and, you know, plug
Yeah.
into the screen. And then this is how I think and feel. And when it's a
Yeah.
positive message or a helpful message, then you're using that power to the greater good.
Yeah. But I think one of the things, and again, you're such a hero for me with your consistent interviewing that you're doing every day with this live forum, because I've had people suggest that I do podcasts. There's, I don't know, there's always been this fear, and I think maybe practicing like this is helpful right now, just because, you know, again, the reviews, it takes me long. I'm not a I don't write quickly. I was never an avid reader other than scientific literature. And I feel that people that are more or have been more avid readers growing up, like writing, especially creative writing, probably comes to them more easily. So I can verbally speak to things much more quickly. And I'm like, well, it would probably take a little bit less time for me once I got comfortable with a podcast, for instance. And also just the fact that I think just inflections aren't necessarily captured in the writing that you would have verbally, you know, a verbal dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So it's something that I feel like you've really opened up with seeing you do this. And yeah, so I really, again, appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
The appreciation is mutual. Yeah, this is my 26th conversation. I've done 1 to 3 a day for the past like 13 days.
Wow.
And I was really afraid and I mean, I feel like oh, awesome. Thank you, Howie. Thank you guys. But you know, I feel it's been helpful for me too. A Beat That Sets My Pulse podcast would be sick. From John. I completely agree with that. I
Thanks.
think that you'd have a lot of viewers. I think you'd have more than you think. A lot of listeners. Also, it's so easy. Podcasts, I mean, as a touring musician who spends, you know, a 5-week tour, I spend like 160 hours driving. It's fucking nuts. I can't tell
Yeah.
you. One of mine and Eduardo's favorite podcasts is called Stuff You Should Know. And it's just, I mean, they cover so much shit. Shout out to them. I fucking love those guys.
Yeah.
But a podcast takes so much time. You need a producer. You need some, you know, you need editors, and
Yeah.
But these conversations have totally been cathartic for me. But they've helped me. Yeah, I went on a tangent, but you had said something about like.
No, I completely agree, and I feel like I've learned so much. But you do come prepared. Like I think your intros have been really, because some of the people, you know, I didn't know, so I feel like you give just enough in the beginning with the intro, and I think that's probably key because the intro sets precedence for the, you know, and it helps people who might not know this person be able to integrate quickly into the conversation. So I feel like you've executed that well, and that would just probably be the initial crux that I kind of have to work out. And I feel like for a long-lasting podcast to keep it up, I have heard from friends having more of a theme and like really knowing what I want to get out of it than just being aware of of what the interviewee wants to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you
yeah.
are you hinting that you have dreams of having a podcast?
Kind of, yeah. You know, maybe a talk show host eventually, but but no, a podcast would be really. And I appreciate again your support, and I think I do have enough musician friends that I'd be comfortable with sort of piloting, using, you know, and to pilot with them before I was, you know, interviewing with people that maybe I didn't know so well. So, yeah. So that's really, yeah. So I appreciate again the support.
Well,
And
just tune in, and
yeah.
I love podcasts because you can listen to them anytime that you
Well,
have
that,
time.
yeah. My other comment was, sorry, I was didn't mean to interrupt, was the fact that, especially living in Los Angeles, it's like we're going to be stuck in traffic a lot, right? And so it's much easier to follow if you're listening to a podcast versus reading something on your phone. So that was my thought as to another benefit of the podcast. So yeah.
Well, I want to turn it. I want to keep it on. I want to talk a little bit more about something else that you do. Um, your balance again with all the things that you do so very well. Um, Going back to your music reviewing, what is your favorite kind of artist to discover?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you had alluded to at one of the, I think it was with Gary, was this idea that, you know, electronic artists wasn't necessarily something that you had a huge palette for, I guess. And I kind of
But I
feel
liked it, and it helped me go like, this is great. I'm so happy because I always wanted to be. Listen,
yeah.
I feel like most of us, everybody is calling me right now. I never get phone calls. Sorry. I always have. I You hear more often that everybody's like that 90% of the world is unaware of like themselves, and like, but I feel, I don't know, maybe I live in like a empathetic bubble where my friends and we all talk about our feelings, and we talk about what we're unaware of and how we want to become more aware. So I feel like one of those people who's very aware of, like, maybe more 5 years ago, before I really started like going out around here and listening to music, and opening up my taste buds and forcing new sonic food in there. I used to
Sonic food. I like that.
I
Sonic food. I like that term.
sonic
Yeah,
food.
that's good.
I used to
Yeah.
I used to not really have Baltimore. What's that? Hey, I
Yeah.
used to not really have a threshold for pop music, and then I would start to like just give it a chance and really fall in love and find things. So what were you saying on that tip?
Yeah, because even with Vox, I didn't know her
Ugh.
music, and then I watched and then I was like, whoa, like it's all about the outfits, you know, the costumes and the attire. So again, that mixed media feel. So yeah, probably electronic artists, because like, you know, I'd maybe say that to somebody, and then I'd have a friend be like, no, you like so and so and so and so, and they're heavy electronic. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, I didn't maybe think that they were electronic. And genres are so blurred nowadays that I'm like, yeah, it's really hard to sort of pigeonhole, you know, again, these bands into certain genres. But maybe, yeah, it'd be electronic, but also if they do something really interesting visually. So I have an example from Iceland Airwaves, which is another maybe, I think, unique aspect of my music taste, is that I'm obsessed with Iceland, and it's like my second home. And I have gone to 5 Iceland Airwaves now. I've been there 6 times. I'd also gone to, what is the one? Secret Solstice, which is in the summer, but it's like a mini South by, and it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, it's a lot of Icelandic representation, and some songs are sung in Icelandic, which is like beautiful. I know you asked, I think, Gary this, the language he likes to hear sung most, and for me it's Icelandic language. It is just so, like, my face will start turning red if somebody is speaking or singing in Icelandic. I just get like hot and bothered, you know. It's like, oh my gosh. But anyway, but at that festival there's also international representation, and it's kind of set up like a mini South by, and I just always feel like there's people pushing the envelope. And there was this one woman named Lidmore, and she was from Denmark, and she had a set up where she had these like black light columns, sort of like set up an arc around her, and then she had the laptop with controlling, I guess, you know, the electronic production. She had some playback, but then also was doing manipulating her voice live with pedals and all that stuff. But you could see in the beginning she had like a white lace leotard, and it seemed like there was some stuff on her arms. It was like, what is that? You know, it's kind of like curious. So she was letting the anticipation brew, and then she came into the audience, and then during one like epic part of her song, it's like, I am woman. And then all of a sudden she had programmed it for the lights to go on at that time when she made this drastic like comment during the middle of the song. And you realize the whole time that like the paint on her arms was black light paint. So, and the black light paint was under her eyes. So she turned in from this fairy sort of figure to like a demon figure, because she had the paint under her eyes, and she, in the dark with the black light, she kind of looked like a demon. And it was in sync with her lyrics. And you're just like, oh my God, this is so unbelievable. Like the timing was impeccable. The anticipation, we were all freaked out, like the entire audience gasped. And it's just like, holy smokes. So yeah, I just think when I come across things like that, like that's what I like to experience, because I had never seen anything done like that before. And then again, it's like, almost like Pandora's box with all of the combination of tools we have now to really make an experience. Again, I think you do an excellent experience. And because it's almost like, yeah, there's great musicians. And some people will say, oh, you don't need to doctor up music if it's good enough music. Like I have heard that.
There's,
But,
well,
yeah. But I
I
think, you know,
was
having an
going and
experience.
say there's a difference between whatever. When you're watching something and the most interesting thing is the lights or the outfits and not the music, that's one thing,
Yeah.
versus watching an artist who clearly has got standalone good music, and you don't know their schedule, you don't know their ambition, but
Yeah.
they put the time in to also create something a bit more atmospheric or create another element to their to contribute to
Yeah.
the live performance. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because,
There's,
especially here in Los Angeles, I mean, yeah, it's just there's a lot of, not, I don't want to say competition, because I think the community here is very collaborative, but it can get crowded, right? So it's like if you can utilize ways to distinguish yourself, why wouldn't you?
mm-hmm.
You know, in my
Totally.
regard. So,
If you can reach
yeah,
deeper yourself and like say, what other hidden talents do I have? I have a friend that's a really great dancer, and she is a singer and a songwriter. And I'm just like, if I like, she's ballerina trained. And I'm like, if I was ballet trained like you, I mean, I would just be like, they'd be like Florence who. Like I would be doing pirouettes. Like I'm like,
yeah,
put that in, you know, it's so I love dancing, and that was something I'm not, you know, ballet trained. I'm more like give me a drum beat and I like to close my eyes. A glass of one drink also helps. But I like to dance around, and that was something that I didn't do until I was like, what's something I can do to contribute to my you know, my personal experience and the showgoer's experience when they come see my music.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. When you said Florence, I feel like that was something I
Who is
initially, in my
amazing?
first, what?
I said, who is amazing? You know, she
Yeah.
wrote so many, and yeah,
I
it's
think, yeah. I did mention that, I think, and I know, again, not trying to do comparisons, because you're your own unique entertainer, but I think what was more of maybe where I saw similarities was just like that you run around kind of like a little bit of like a fairy in a way, but then it's like this like but then you're also very raw, and I feel like she has more of a dainty approach where you have a more like
oh
raw.
not yeah I
Yeah. And
you
yeah,
know
and
I there is zero comparison between her and I. We are two very 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 different artists with different
yeah,
and different looks and different styles. But I just these are examples of ways that you know moving your body is clearly nothing I'm inventing.
well,
The way that artists can reach within themselves, and I think that you, I
yeah,
think you know, back to the question, what kind of artists do you look for? You look for artists who go
yeah,
in there and they say, you know, what else do I have to offer? I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
Well,
I
a
want.
common denominator, I guess, also would just be that I feel like you share is that you use the stage and you use the audience, and she did that well. And also, I feel like because I've seen you so many times with your.
I love her. I
Somebody went to your
love.
stage.
She's a
Yes,
crazy girl.
yes, she is. Um,
Love her so much.
so
I
I
miss her.
know she's the best love of my life right now.
She was
And I have basically
arm,
like
and your hair was like on her head.
yours. She was staring. I caught her staring at herself in the mirror the other day, and I was like, I know, you're gorgeous. Okay, you can stop staring at yourself. It's like, but no, the fact that you use the stage and you also, you like inflect everything. And so, like when you say, and it was nice. I feel like with the East Coast leaving line, it's like you have looked at me because it's like we know we both share that sense of like East Coast leaving and coming out here. So I feel like, with the audience members that well, you do incorporate them, and it's very much, it's like more theatrical, and yeah, you're not stolid by any means, and I love that. And the way I like to describe your shows is like you feel like, I know it's like you definitely got to work out, but I also feel like I got to work out because I know at points like the blood vessel, my carotid artery was probably bulging out of my neck as I was
No,
as I was singing along.
anatomic term. The your neck anatomy.
Yeah, well, but yeah, so it's just like, and it's experience and it's cathartic, and yeah, it's like, I think again that's the difference between some musical shows where you again feel like you're just a spectator, and some where you're actually feel like you're kind of playing in the game, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some artists that you're really excited to see after this house arrest that we are on?
Yeah.
Anybody you've got your eye on right now?
Well, I think people that I've seen recently that I really like, and this is so hard because a lot of these are friends, but so one of a band I love that's instrumental, completely instrumental, is called City of the Sun. And I actually had discovered them back at Bottle Rock Napa.
You've mentioned before.
Yeah. And what's interesting though is kind of seeing somebody like pre and post being signed to a label. Yeah, that's another perspective maybe I can share with people like one-on-one, but I love the atmosphere that they create with their music. They don't need lyrics. There's so much build up. It's so beautiful. And the nice thing about them that I think stands out from other bands, they, even before they were signed, they were hustling. And I know not everybody can necessarily do this, but they were traveling. They were going global, and they were going to South America, and they were playing on the streets, and they were figuring out how to curate a presence and garner people's attention and like keep their attention. And they were doing that, people all over the world. So it's like, because again, their music doesn't have lyrics. So it's like, hey, we need to create that feel just, just with the music alone. And so I think why they have such incredible stage, I guess, stage presence and execution is because they kind of did all that legwork, busking and being put in front of audiences raw and cold turkey. And so it's kind of almost natural for them. It's like with the one lead guy, John, playing the guitar, it's like he doesn't even need to, I mean, he's so comfortable. It's like he's walking, and when we last saw him at the Troubadour, he like jumped into actually jumped right in front of me, which is really cool. Cause obviously he knew I was a top fan. And I'm like, I was like, wow, you know what? I can do whatever I want so I was like grabbing his hair, and he's still continuing to play the guitar, like not distracted at all. And he thought it was funny. But I feel like, yeah, again, when you can get to that point where you're such a craft of your art and it's almost too easy, that you kind of need like crowd participation as distraction. Another band that obviously executed that really well because they've been playing for centuries was Rodrigo and Gabriela. Do you know them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember even when I saw them in 2011, I'm like, oh my, they were like, come on, like give us distraction, because you can see that they've honed their craft so well. It's like second nature. And the only thing that's going to make a show a different experience for them is how the audience will participate. So anyway, that's City of the Sun. And they keep putting teasers of like Pappy and Harriet's and in like cowboy outfits. And I'm like, please tell me you're going to play Pappy and Harriet's, because it's my dream for some of my favorite bands to play that venue, just because it's so magical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I will give a shout out as well to Sun Little. who, a funny story, you know this, I discovered by accident because I thought Aaron of Sun Little was the security guy at Pappy's, because when we were hanging out in the front,
He
he
was
was hanging around.
he was standing really stoically, you were saying, right?
Yeah, and I just didn't see him talking to anybody else. So that's why I'm like, oh man, like maybe we're not supposed to be in here. And I felt, and then when I was like, oh, like we're not supposed to be in here, he looked confused at first, and then he realized to play along with it, and he's like, yeah, like get out, you can't be here. And then he laughed, and he's like, no, just kidding. And he's like, you know, actually, I'm playing here tomorrow night. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like Captain Jackass. I'm like, like I just, but it was really endearing that he still, like, he kind of seemed to maybe love that. It's because I think maybe in the reason why he personally extended an invite was because he saw that I was talking to all these people, and he saw how lit up I got when I talked about music. So it was pretty much like, come to my show, like I think you'll enjoy it. And man, like totally, yeah. I mean, he could not be more spot on. I'm actually really embarrassed that they slipped my radar, because Sun Little had been out. I think the first album was maybe like 2017 or something like that. Yeah, they blew me away, and they were just such nice people too. So it was very fortuitous, and I feel like that whole weekend there were so many fortuitous events that occurred that Jess and I had a running joke. Jess Jones, who's an amazing musician, who was with me that weekend, one of the Sun Little song, which is one of their most catchy songs, is Blue Magic. Everybody should listen to that because it will put you in a good mood. But we're like, what is he talking about with this blue magic? And then we're like, oh my God, it's everything that happened this weekend. It's the crazy serendipity and stuff that like all fell into place with these unexpected surprises. So we joked, that's like our running joke, that whenever things seem to line up, it's like it's the blue magic that's like in the air.
I like that.
Yeah. So, and they're supposed to play the Ohana Fest, which hopefully being at the end of September, I don't think will be canceled. I think the lineup is pretty stellar, and I believe you were there, right, last year?
The
Or?
Ohana, always such a great lineup. I played the third, I played 2 years ago, which was the third one. LP played last year. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Eddie Vedder's festival, and he's a sweetheart. So was his wife. I've not met them a couple of times, and he's just, it's so cool. It's such a
Yeah.
it's such a great location too.
Yeah. I'm hoping I can rally a group, and yeah, because there's definitely a lot of heady.
If I'm right
Sorry.
now, right now I'm gonna be on a tour that I haven't announced yet, but if I am home, if that doesn't happen, that's not happening for the same reason. So I'm sure you'll be able to rally some troops. It's such a good festival, and it's so quick,
Yeah.
like a 45 hour, or maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe it's like an hour and 20. But
Yeah. Well, because camping
you've been to it
festivals,
before.
yeah, because it's not camping. I've never done it, but camping festivals, I was going to say there's always restrictions with pets. So it's like if I wanted my girl to join, that wouldn't be a possibility. So, yeah,
Oh,
by the way,
there?
so, what?
Is there camping?
I didn't think there was. I thought it
Oh,
was,
I'm sorry. I thought I
yeah.
heard you say camping.
Yeah, no, I didn't think there was camping. And I guess my point is, as much as I like camping festivals, it usually restricts the dog. So if I
Yeah.
wanted her to come,
Yeah, like a
um,
dog Airbnb.
yeah. One of the things I guess I see, I don't know, maybe how long do you think? Because I didn't think we started at the hour, but
We
I
have
also,
until 4:02.
okay. All right. I want to give a plug for 6 minutes, I guess. Also, this idea of reviving house shows. Magic Bronson had a house show, maybe it was like 2 weeks ago with Folly and Vices, and it was really cool. And I don't know, it's such a unique atmosphere, casual, love that, and really also conducive to friendships made, you know, afterwards. And then what was really nice is Jess Jones, for her birthday was like, oh my gosh, we have so many friends that are musicians. Like, let's utilize this to have, you know, a platform for almost kind of like a mini music festival. I didn't think her or I expected, because I kind of was helping with some, you know, advice on maybe some bands that we could try and recruit. But it literally turned out to be like a mini festival, and it was unbelievable. And just to give shout out to people that played there, like Tar and Flowers,
Harry
Strange.
Katz just chimed in.
Hey,
Jessica,
yes, it was so amazing. And
yeah,
Harry was part of the
this was in yeah, New
Sherman
York.
Oaks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got me a
Yeah.
message. Unfortunately, I had so much shit to do. Like a couple days before it was happening, it was on a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was when I was bothering you about the thing that maybe I thought would fit you and wouldn't fit me. But
did you end up wearing it?
no, it would not zip up, and I
By the
took
way,
it back
you're
for
allergic
credit.
for thinking that it would fit me if it doesn't fit you. I'm like,
Well,
I'm like a size bigger, but it was beautiful. It was a really dope sequence top.
yeah.
You know,
It
to
was cool.
get
I will
off the
continue to think about things if I see things and be like, oh my God, you'd shine in that.
too.
But yeah, in the other bands, sort of, so Mafarico and then Sean Fleming, but Sean Fleming typically does solo, and he actually now has garnered a full band, and they played twice as a full band live, and that was excellent.
Cool.
And then the Natural Supernatural, and all, you know, all of them being buddies. It was just so beautiful to see like people that had never seen them before react and be in awe. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's my friend. Like I was telling you. And it was just such a
Happy
beautiful.
community.
It was so nice. And then, you know, with this being Sherman Oaks, there were some issues with noise violations, whatever, 6 o'clock on a Saturday, which is silly.
Were you guys noisy after 11 p.m.?
No, it was after 6. It was Mafarico, because it was like shredding on the guitar. It was amazing. Obviously, it's like, again, silly. We didn't think 6 o'clock on a Saturday. But then I feel like we recouped as a team, and we figured out how to handle the situation. And, you know, had to go a little bit of acoustic with a set after that. And then by the time like Sean Fleming came on, you know, we kind of figured out the tone that would be appropriate. And yeah, we recovered. And we had enough things to do in between.
The
Yeah,
appropriate volume.
exactly. And there
To
were
make
so
the
many fun things we
suburbs
did in
of
between.
Los Angeles happy.
Exactly. But yeah, if we can revive the house party or house shows, like that is so beautiful.
I think it's going to be a little bit of time, but you know, of course, this isn't forever. You know, it's going to be great. The next one that you guys have is going to be even better.
Yeah. And it was also just incredible too, even the idea of like the PA system, them figuring it all out of themselves. I mean, the sound quality was
Oh my gosh.
epic.
Yeah, I don't touch buttons and chords. That's not my forte.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that was sort of the things. I mean, again, I don't even know with I'm just trying to think of other things that I put a plug in for the desert nights. I think a lot of the things and I know you had an interview with her recently, but there's so many things that are special that LA has.
It was actually scheduled for Wednesday, and
Oh,
I had to reschedule it. So we're going to chat next Wednesday, right before Desert Nights.
okay.
And Alicia Blue and I are the artists playing next Wednesday. So,
Nice.
virtual Desert Nights. I might do it here in my closet office space, because this is kind of where I have been living for like all my screen time, which has been really nice to like leave the screens in here, and then
Yeah.
I have my house to like do other stuff.
Yeah. I must say one thing I found was you did one of the calls. Oh gosh, I forget who it was with, but it was this girl from New York, and you were showing her the battle between a blue jay and a squirrel.
Fiona Silver.
Yes.
That was when it wasn't raining. Tell everybody
Yes.
it has been raining for weeks in Los Angeles. Also, we have one more minute.
Yeah.
So this is going to cut us off, but everyone should go to Erica's page and find so many musicians that you're about to fall in love with. And Erica, keep talking.
Yeah, no, and I love to make playlists. So that's one other thing. I feel like maybe that is my creative outlet, is making playlists. And yeah, I try and do it maybe every few weeks, and it reflects the bands I'm seeing at the time. So yeah. And there's definitely a flow to them. You know, I don't just sort of like slap these things together, but you know,
You take time writing.
Yeah, and the flow, and it all stems from the fact that I actually used to make handmade CDs back in the day, and then I was like, man, I should.
And before that, cassette tapes.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't as into music then, which is crazy. To be honest, I didn't really start.
I started with cassette tapes.
Very nice. I didn't start going to a lot of live music shows though. Probably like my second year of grad, second or third year of grad school. So yeah, um, yeah. I never
I
used to be
love
as
you.
much. Huh?
I love you.
Oh, thanks. Well, actually, it's also one of the reasons is because my dad used to be a federal probation officer for Philadelphia, and in his mind said everybody was a criminal. So it's like you can't go to that show, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So
I
yeah.
feel like that your mantra is the antithesis of that.
Oh, I know. And one more thing to leave you with: people are always like, Eric, you're nuts, but the more you age, the more fearless you seem to become, and it's usually